there you are. Come on in. Good to see you. Welcome to Alive. Okay, question for today. Have you ever believed a story even though you didn't know if it was true? Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Huh? Huh? There's tea. You want tea? Okay, here's the thing. I was once a story that everyone believed, even though it wasn't true. Yeah. See, I was an urban legend, a proto-meme of sorts, a myth, if you will, for a while there. Everyone kind of believed for like 15 years that I died of some terrible event, like a drug overdose or a car crash or suicide or some awful shit. It went on forever. Here you go. And no matter what I did, I couldn't get truth to cut through a sea of stories, you know? Simply because it seemed that everyone preferred the story to the facts. It was really surreal. But now, honestly, it feels like that's all of us, all the time, right? I mean, we're standing in front of a fire hose of misinformation. You open up your phone, and it's like all conspiracy theories, and it feels like the truth is now some kind of a vibe or something, and you add AI into the mix, and man, I'm just wondering where all of this is headed. Like, what's the future of truth? What do you think? Huh. Interesting. Let's go. Okay. All right. Full disclosure, I am extra psyched today because our guest is Adam Savage, who is a maker, a storyteller, a professional tinkerer, and the legendary co-host of MythBusters, probably my favorite show of all time. He spent like 14 years on TV blowing stuff up, breaking stuff down, testing the veracity of myths and urban legends. The show became a cultural touchstone, not just because of the explosions, but really for the way it modeled the scientific method as something playful, accessible, wildly fun. Before all that, on MythBusters, Adam had already built a career behind the scenes as a special effects artist on films like Star Wars Episode 2, no big deal, The Matrix Reloaded, Galaxy Quest, which, by the way, is an awesome movie. He worked in theater and sculpture and fabrication as a teacher. He's written a best-selling book called Every Tool's a Hammer. He launched the YouTube juggernaut Tested. And basically, he just remains one of... to me, he's like a champion of curiosity and critical thinking. And I'm thrilled. Ooh, and he's here. Okay. Hello, Adam Savage.
Hello. Steve, that was the most wonderful introduction. Thank you.
It was all apt. And I was keeping it chill, actually. Because you really are, you know, they say don't meet your heroes. I hope this goes well. Is this the set? Is this tested? Is that it right there?
Yeah, this is we're in the I guess this would be the west half of my shop.
Yeah.
This used to be a display area lined with Billy bookcases from IKEA and filled with my collection. Back in 2022, Industrial Light and Magic closed down the last of its original buildings, and I took in some of the model making shelving full of the greeblies they used to build spaceships because I thought, let me just keep all this stuff together. And then this became an extension of the shop, which is spectacular, and it has afforded a much better flow in terms of the builds that I do on Tested and the ways in which we film here.
Okay, I have questions. on MythBusters, there was kind of a Bert and Ernie vibe with you and Jamie Heineman, and you were, I believe, in my heart, largely playing a role of this mercurial force of nature to his sort of stoic, rigid scrutiny, right? But then I'm looking around that shop, which looks to me a little chaotic, but I know that it's not. I know that you know where every wing nut delta nozzle is in every single one of those drawers back there. I know that you know that. So you have both sides, I think, right? You're both the mercurial person who is led by their sense of joy and anticipation and curiosity, but you also have the strict methodology side, right?
It's true. They both exist simultaneously. And, by the same token, I can be completely full of crap in one sense.
Right. Oh, me too. Wait till we get started, man. You'll hear it.
But, I actually think of that combination as a really like a lucky happenstance of my brain.
Yeah.
The rigor and the enjoyment of tedium, which is, again, when I say enjoyment of tedium, I don't mean it's fun in the middle of it. Tedious stuff is tedious for me like it is for anybody else, but I can be in the middle of it and know where I'm going and feel really secure in that space. And the ability to dive into that, okay, just do it one more time, even though you've done it 5 times already. Okay, do it 100th time, even though you've done it 99 times. The ability to sit with that tedium, honestly, might be the engine of everything else I've achieved, right? Because it gives me this foundation to have a place like this where it's visually cacophonous, but you're right. I know where everything is. And right now, there's like 12 syringes full of lapping compound, which I cannot find, and it's making me nuts for a couple of days.
Oh my God, Adam, same. I have no idea where my lapping compound is. We were just talking about that. It's so frustrating. Those two sides are so essential. It's something the older I get, the more I realize that the chocolate and peanut butter of that is an important governing dynamic for most things. Like I look at it like a boat, right? You need a sail, and that sail is energy and inspiration and ideals and crazy ideas and your curiosity and all of your passion. But you also need a rudder, or you're just going to go around in circles, right?
Sometimes that rudder is your boss. It's your supervisor, right?
Yeah.
It's your teacher. It's someone who's helping you stay on track. And I've had plenty of employees who've worked for me with no executive skills. And I provide the structure.
Yeah.
I just feel very lucky that they both came to fore in my own brain.
Yeah. I think we're all very lucky that both came to fore in your own brain in that way. Okay, let's get a little bit into MythBusters because it's my favorite show. For anyone who hasn't seen it, I can't believe there's anyone who doesn't know what you did on MythBusters, but the conceit was you would take an urban legend or a myth and you would run it through a specific methodology, right? And the idea is you were looking for one of 3 results. Something could be confirmed, it could be busted, or it could be plausible. I'll use an example of my very favorite episode. I'm sure everyone does this to you, and everyone expresses their favorite episode. But the myth was, oh, that went over like a lead balloon. And y'all were like, I'm going to make a lead balloon and see if that's a thing. And you guys, spoiler, you not only did you do it, but it was such a beautiful object. Like as an object, it belonged in the Whitney. It was remarkable. Talk to me about the methodology, the terms confirmed, busted, and plausible, and what they actually mean within your methodology.
So busted and confirmed showed up fully formed when the production company showed up to film the pilots. The idea that a myth would be busted or confirmed. I added plausible. Plausible came out of my own sense of humor, which is, in my experience, I was really good at getting stuff done, but when someone would say, "Can you get that done?" I would not say yes. I would say that is totally plausible.
Right.
This was my way of sort of enjoying the fact that the universe is totally uncertain.
Yeah.
It ends up being the most common adjudication of myths, was more were plausible than anything else. But at the same time, the freedom that plausible gave us to thread the needle of, okay, we've showed this is possible, but we can't find a legitimate first-person account, so we can't say confirmed, we can say plausible. It was a great way of framing knowledge as to what you've got in front of you. So I think it's great that most things weren't one thing or the other. They were somewhere in a liminal space between those two poles. That's what plausible is.
Yes. And plausible, it doesn't surprise me that, although I didn't know this until you said it, it doesn't surprise me that most of the myths and urban legends and idiomatic phrases, were plausible, right? I'm looking to apply what you guys did and apply it to misinformation because an urban legend, a myth, that's sort of like a proto meme in a way, right? It's a story, it's a concept that may be more satisfying to hear than it is evident.
And I don't even think it's plausibly a meme. I think they are the same. Memes are one of the ways we're currently shaping and understanding the shape of our world with each other.
Yeah.
They're a mode of communication. And I had a lot of time over 14 years of making the show to think about urban legends and why they propagate. And they propagate for the same reason that I loved making the show, because people love a great story about why stuff happens.
Yeah.
We want a great story, and we want the story that's the one that's the most interesting version. That's totally a human trait. I think also when it comes to disinformation and conspiracy theories, I think one of my side theories has been that people in a state of desperation want to believe that someone is in charge. And thus a conspiracy is actually semi-reassuring. Right?
Yeah, 100%.
In that, like, well, someone could affect change. This is feasible. When the reality is, evil is completely and always has been as banal gets.
Yeah.
I want to tell you that it was actually almost 2 years before we realized we were officially making a science show. There was a moment a couple of years in when I realized, wow, we are really just using the scientific method as a narrative flowchart.
So I won't lie, skincare is a relatively new concept to me. I tend to use just one bar of soap for everything, but now that I'm on camera a lot more, I've been using this OneSkin OS1 face topical supplement. I love this stuff. This stuff is awesome, and I think it's working. I think I look all right. Yeah. And at the core of it is their patented OS1 peptide, which is the first ingredient ever proven to target senescent cells, which are the cause of wrinkliness and loss of elasticity and crepiness. And I don't want to be crepey. And those results have now been validated in 5 different studies. And what's even better is OneSkin also just launched their limited edition holiday sets, including the Nightly Rewind gift set, which includes all sorts of amazing stuff and is both impressive and genuinely useful. So for a limited time, try OneSkin for 15% off using code ALIVE at oneskin.co/alive. That's 15% off using code ALIVE at oneskin.co/alive. And after you purchase, they'll ask where you heard about them. So please support our show. Tell them we sent you. Okay, so it happened. The holidays are here. The holiday season is upon us right now. And that can be a little stressful. I don't know about you. I tend to wait to the last minute to shop. But Uncommon Goods takes the stress out of gifting with thousands of unique high-quality finds that you won't see anywhere else. And again, not to stress you out, but you probably shouldn't wait too long because all the good stuff does tend to get scooped up fast. In fact, I saw this one thing on there that I'm definitely getting for my friend's kid. It's like a little handheld video gaming system, but it lets you invent and create your own video game. How cool is that? If I was 9, I would freak out for that. If I was 39, I would freak out for that. It's pretty awesome. They totally do have something for everyone, from moms and dads, kids, teens, book lovers, football fans, foodies, mixologists. If you're a gardener, they do have stuff for everyone. But the cool thing is, when you shop at Uncommon Goods, you're supporting artists and small businesses. And they give $1 back for every purchase to a nonprofit partner of your choice, which is rad, right? They've already raised like $3 million. They're fantastic. So don't wait. Cross those names off your list before the rush. To get 15% off your next gift, go to uncommongoods.com/alive. That's uncommongoods.com/alive for 15% off. Uncommon Goods. We're all out of the ordinary. This holiday season, give the gift of epic sound with JLab. So I don't know if you're shopping for a music enthusiast like me, or a fitness enthusiast, or a podcast enthusiast. Sound matters. We're constantly listening to media through headphones, and how it sounds matters. And JLab has you covered. They've got the JBuds Luxe, the over-ears with great noise canceling and something like 70 hours of playtime. And then they've got the JBuds Pods with like 56 hours of playtime, and they also have noise canceling. So look for the blue box at retailers everywhere, or shop jlab.com and use code ALIVE for 15% off your order today. This is why it's brilliant, though, in my opinion, because we know how sticky stories are, right? We know that we are conditioned to absorb and internalize story at the expense of fact, if need be, right? I read somewhere that a story is something like 22 times more memorable than bare facts, right? And you're presenting the facts through this hero's journey, and it just makes it so much stickier. And I wonder what you think about this. I think we're sort of at this point hyper conditioned for narrative since the radio, really. I mean, we've always been prone to absorb story. That's been the way we've parsed our universe forever, since the campfire. But then the campfire became a radio, and then the radio became a television, and then we stopped testing and busting these myths in reality so much and just stayed inside and listened and just fire hosed stories and narratives into our brains, and then movies and TV and just the explosion of media that now lives in our pocket, that we're now addicted to. I think we have conditioned ourselves in large part to only accept narrative as reality in a way.
Look, story is, I think, one of the most important human things there is. I think it's how we pass knowledge down from the very beginning. The first story is like this sharp stick. If we hide behind the thing, as together we can run for days, and we can stop these things much bigger than us, and we can eat for a winter. Those are facts in a linear structure. And I think you're right. I'm not sure that we're addicted to stories, but I think they're innate in the way our brains function. And because of that, we're just as vulnerable to stories as we are benefited by them. Yeah,
100%.
Right.
You say that that story passes down knowledge, but it can also pass down misinformation. This is what you're saying. We're vulnerable to it as well. And if something doesn't stand critical thinking, the scientific process, rigorous scrutiny, is it knowledge? And this is where I want to get into plausibility of those three adjudicating factors, right? I think we understand confirmed. I think we understand busted. But plausibility, I feel like, is the one where we get into trouble, where we get ourselves into trouble. It's the moment that makes a crack just big enough that we can fill it with all our confirmation bias. We can fill it with all of our prior assumptions, and assume that it is good enough to be true. It's actionably true to me because I find its plausibility pleasant and it confirms my bias.
So I want to speak to this because I'll reframe plausibility as existing within a space of both knowing and not knowing. It is existing in a space where you have an imperfect amount of information from which you can draw some conclusions, but they are not conclusive, as it were.
There you go.
And I think every artist knows and spends much of their lives in that space, works hard to spend time in that space of not knowing because really remarkable stuff can happen in there. But we work and live in late stage capitalism, and your boss doesn't give two craps about whether you know or don't know. They want yes or no, right? Within the business environment, a plausible is like, no. I need to know it's yes or no that it's no. And there's very much within the American workplace, not a lot of room for like, well, we'll figure it out when we get there. Not to say that there aren't businesses in which that's a terrible approach to the plan, but I've also worked for a lot of, when I've worked for bad bosses, it's because they had specific outcomes they were looking for and they didn't care how they happened, whether, abuse on their staff or whatever. There's a tension between the ways in which we live our lives within this current system and within the way the human mind works. I think the human mind does best when it spends a lot of time in that not knowing space, in that liminal space. But it's an uncomfortable place to be.
Yeah, for sure. Like demonstrably uncomfortable. No one wants to be there. People will take what is obviously plausible, which is, how did you say it? Which is a state of knowing and unknowing simultaneously. That sounds like most of life to me. And but people will take that plausibility and they will just run with it as fact, right? That's what we're seeing more and more of, and it kind of freaks me out. The degree to which people will say, "Well, I don't know this, but it could be true." So I'm going with it as if it is because I prefer that and it makes me feel good. And I think that's a dangerous thing. How does plausibility relate to falsifiability?
That's a really wonderful question. I mean, I want to change this and talk about debating a bad faith debater.
Okay. Yeah.
Because I was a late adult when I realized if I don't understand somebody, it's mostly their fault, not my fault. Right? You've met people who, like, when you're young and you're like 20 and someone comes up and they're like, and you're like, wow, I guess they're working on some wavelength I don't understand. And in my 50s, I'm like, no, they're not. They're just full of shit.
Yes.
Yeah. So when you debate a bad faith debater, they go at you for like really specific facts. Well, what about what happened in 1978? Right? The kind of thing of like neither human in any debate can hold all the facts at their disposal at once. But we live in this kind of current debate culture where people, where if someone doesn't have a direct answer to a direct question, it's like, I destroyed them.
Yeah.
And nothing could be farther from the truth for the building of actual knowledge. I was giving a talk a few years ago where I finished with this model of the universe. And really late in the talk, I don't know about you, but I always come up with my last and first rhetorical flourishes at the very last second I'm writing a talk. And the last one was, this isn't a model of our universe. It's the best assemblage of all the stories we have currently assembled about our universe.
Yeah.
And any one of those could change with new data tomorrow.
Yeah.
I think it is easy to weaponize people's fear of the unknown, of I don't know as an answer. And so they want people who know all the answers.
Yes.
And that makes them vulnerable to a demagogue that claims to have all the answers, because nobody has all the answers. And everyone's an idiot. All of us.
I agree with all of that. I keep a bust of Socrates back here because I love the story of that guy who went up to the oracle and he was like, "Hey, who's the smartest dude?" And the oracle was like, "You are." And he's like, "That can't be true." They're like, "No, you're the smartest dude because you know that you don't know." You know, and I've always loved that story. I was like, that is an excellent posture from which to gather information.
Yep.
Why do you think people are so uncomfortable with uncertainty? And why aren't you? You seem to embrace it. You seem to jump into it.
I'm uncomfortable with uncertainty. I'm just as uncomfortable as anybody else. And again, I think that there's a lot of ways in which our current culture, our late stage capitalism, a phrase I use way too much, engenders just that kind of fear. And I've had decades of experience of staying in a space of not knowing benefiting me professionally. That's like that. It's a muscle that I've been able to build.
I keep coming back to the methodology of both MythBusters and Tested. It really is about taking something that is, if not a belief, is an assumption or a commonly held assumption, testing it before drawing a conclusion, right? And within that conclusion, you have, as you say, 3 adjudicating principles. It can be, yeah, that's real. Yeah, that's busted. Or there's some evidence that it could be, but it's inconclusive, right? How do we apply that to beliefs before we share them, before we drop them into the information maelstrom of the global interweb? What I'm looking for, what I want, what I've always wanted is like a Batman utility belt full of things to do to kind of test a proposition before I decide whether or not I believe that. And that's going to be more and more and more and more and more and more and more important moving forward, right? It's already hard to tell what's real when we're looking at it on our phone. It can be hard for people to know if the med bed is real for some people. And misinformation, AI, all of this is thundering forward at an exponential pace. And I feel like we need the Batman utility belt, you know?
I'll say, you said a phrase there, on your phone. I mean, the answer, look, what we're really talking about, I think, is cultural biases, the ways in which cultural biases can harm each other. And the answer to that, to me, is, it seems pretty evident from looking at maps of the United States, where cities, when you put people in a tight space, they tend to both tolerate and appreciate each other more. And when you separate them, and the only way they talk to each other is through their phones or through their internet, they can build much greater biases against each other. And it's very upsetting.
Yeah, I've often said, you know, part of the whole point of doing this and everything that I want to do is about reminding me and everyone that there's a human being on the other side of that screen. And always. And that person has a human soul, and that person is just as complex and screwed up and awesome and weird as you are. And there's got to be a way. There's got to be a way to humanize exactly what we're doing, right?
The way we counter bias is collectively. That's the thing. It's collective. And, you know, we live in a country where the third space, the local pub, is like disappearing.
Yep.
Bowling leagues are going away. I feel like the balm for so much of this is putting people back in contact with each other.
Yeah. Yeah. So if your family's anything like mine, there's at least some mild competition around who can give the best gift. Well, this year, you can have a cheat code with Aura frames. These things are great. You know what they are. It's like a digital picture frame that you can even preload with pictures. So as soon as someone opens their Aura frame, Christmas morning, for example, there's the pictures right there, like magic. And it's super easy to do. You can upload it remotely from anywhere. All you have to do is download the Aura app and connect it to Wi-Fi. It's great. So for a limited time, visit auraframes.com and get $45 off Aura's best-selling carver mat frames, named #1 by Wirecutter, by using promo code ALIVE at checkout. That's AURA frames.com, promo code ALIVE. This exclusive Black Friday Cyber Monday deal is their best of the year, so order now before it ends. Support the show by mentioning us at checkout. Terms and conditions apply. This episode is sponsored by BetterHelp. So, does your family have any holiday traditions like mine? We do like a tacky Christmas present award. And then another tradition we have is chaos, utter chaos. And it can be really overwhelming. And actually, I've decided to make it a holiday tradition to get some quiet time and reflect about the real meaning of the holidays. So if you are someone who gets overwhelmed by the holidays and is looking for a little clarity, why not try BetterHelp online therapy this December as a way to close the year with clarity instead of chaos? The BetterHelp therapists work according to a strict code of conduct and are fully licensed in the US. They've got over 30,000 therapists, and it really can be that first step. They have an average rating of 4.9 out of 5 for a live session. That's based on 1.7 million reviews. So, this December, start a new tradition by taking care of you. Our listeners get 10% off at betterhelp.com/SteveAlive. That's betterhelp.com/SteveAlive. So the holidays are just around the corner, and that means people are coming over. And I live alone up here in the woods, and I need stuff. Like I need like linens and sheets and stuff for people, and I need like cups for more than one human being. And of course, some holiday decor would be nice. And Wayfair's Black Friday sale is the perfect time to score huge deals on all that stuff. Everything from like sofas and spatulas, like they literally have everything. And you can get up to 70% off during Wayfair's Black Friday sale. So don't miss out early on Black Friday deals. Head to wayfair.com now to shop Wayfair's Black Friday deals for up to 70% off. That's WAYFAIR.com. The sale ends December 7th. Last topic here. I know at the beginning of MythBusters, you guys used to have whole segments about urban legends, right? There was even like a mythologist that was on.
Yes, Heather Wickham.
Yeah, and I, for a long time, was an urban legend. And
right.
When the internet was just beginning to internet, it decided that I died of some horrible, some list of horrible ways that I either crashed a car or committed suicide or that I died of a heroin overdose. And it was so demonstrably untrue. I was literally making more television that it was almost funny. But, the story goes like after a while, it starts to feel like, oh, is this what people would prefer? Like, why are people preferring this story to an obvious reality? Yeah. Did I do something wrong? Am I supposed to be like, what is going on here? And what I can say, is that urban legend, that urban myth that became indelible in my life had real consequences for me. Eventually it had actual effects on me.
Yeah.
And, I used to sort of fantasize, like, I just want the MythBusters to show up. They're like my rescue team. They can show up with like a blood pressure machine and like some simple medical diagnostic stuff and test
Hold
whether
up
or
a
not.
mirror and watch you react to it.
Yes, exactly. And we could go through this in it wouldn't even be an A segment. Like it could be a really small interstitial segment and just prove to everyone that I was alive. And that sense of not being able to assert truth against a sea of misinformation, I think feels
Right.
very familiar to people right now. Because to
Yeah.
me, it feels like the truth is very much a vibe. And I don't think that truth is a vibe. And I look to you and I look to Jamie as sort of heroes of critical thinking and heroes of sort of embracing that as a joyful strategy to meet the uncertain. And I'm wondering, what is the future of truth as we move through this digital moment that we're in of disinformation and misinformation? I'm wondering what you think we can do. Is there a way to like micro bust all of these little mythy memes that we encounter on the
No.
okay. All right, I'll see you later.
No, I don't think so. I think there's too many, too fast. It's been too weaponized and it's too efficient.
Yeah.
But I also think, again, I redound to community as the greatest balm for bias. I've been doing this talk over the last few years about the origins of measuring things, the science of metrology. And the most astounding thing that I concluded, and I didn't understand this when I started writing this talk, I've only understood it after giving the talk a few times, is that the most shocking thing of the past 15 years is that the world has worked because a lot of people were agreeing to be polite. And when a concentrated group of people decide to not be polite, they can harm stuff in an abiding way and quickly. And that's shocking, right? It's the same with measurement. There is no such thing as a measurement. Every measurement that's adjudicated on any piece of scientific equipment has a temperature at which that measurement is to be adjudicated. It's usually 20 degrees Celsius or 59 degrees Fahrenheit. But it's only true at that temperature. So the thing we think of as the unassailable fact there is, which is like, how long is this pencil? I can give you 3 answers right now with a blow dryer. I can change its size with measuring equipment I possess by heating it up or cooling it down. And thus, measurement 2 and the measuring of everything in the world and how we collaborate on making things like LIGO or the James Webb Space Telescope all work because we've agreed to collaborate under the same circumstances. And again, I redound that community is the greatest enemy of bias that there can be. And you can build beautiful bias within a community too, but it has both abilities. Jesus.
Well, can you say more specifically about that? You say community is sort of an antidote to bias.
I think diverse communities. In the same way, I think it's Mark Twain said that travel is toxic to bigotry. I mean, you're saying something very specific there, right? In that if you meet a lot of people from a lot of different places, it makes it a lot harder to make snap judgments or to hate them.
Yeah. Where do you think all this is going, Adam? What's your take on the future of truth? Where are we headed as it relates to beliefs being confirmed or busted or deemed plausible?
I like history. I read a bunch of history, like a lot of dudes in their late 50s.
Yeah.
And I find sometimes I think back on the screeds that George Washington famously had a cabinet full of people who despised each other. And they worked actively against each other while in his cabinet, writing anonymous screeds against each other within his cabinet. And when you look at them and you read some of them and the things they're calling each other, make some of what's being written today seem semi-tame. So I'm reminded that polemicization is cyclical. I feel like it is cyclical. I feel like in the 20th century, we watched the New Deal come in and the 1960s and 70s come in. And, I look at those arcs And I think that there will be a shift back towards a more egalitarian normalcy. I hope that is within 5 years instead of 10 or 15 years, but it could be a whole generation before we are agreeing to work together on some common version where everyone benefits. The only thing about my politics is that I just don't think anybody is different from anybody else. Don't get me wrong. I understand that all human beings are unique and different, but I value and want a society and a culture in which everybody has the exact same opportunities available to them from the benefits of this culture. And it pains me that we solved world hunger, how to produce enough calories cheaply enough for the whole world. We solved that decades ago.
Yeah.
The only reason there are still hungry people is because it's profitable, and that causes my soul pain, and I hope that I will be alive long enough to witness a world in which that's not the case.
Yeah, same. What about as it relates specifically to misinformation and the kind of technologies that we are jumping headfirst into, cannonballing into, that are just so full of dis and misinformation, deepfakes, AI? What can we do?
You know, it's so hard because it's so difficult because we've decimated all of our local news to such a degree and consolidated local news outlets to a degree that's really difficult to recover from. I have a friend whose theory about this is first Craigslist, then fascism. And he's like, Craigslist eliminated the golden goose for local newspapers. Their profit margins were astounding before Craigslist. The classified ads was a spectacular money train. And when we got rid of that, we got rid of the main. I haven't researched this theory. I'm repeating what my friend Ben says, so I could be totally wrong about some of this. But we need to get back to local coverage of local issues. It's one of the things I miss most about old Twitter is that as someone pointed out, it was one of the only things in the world where you could talk about global politics, but also type, "What was that noise?" and get a response to either one of those things.
Well, this is what I want, Adam. This is how I want the world to work. I want to see a claim on the global interweb that seems sketchy to me. And I want you and the MythBusters to arrive in that moment. And I want you to say, aha, let's test this belief before you share it, Steve. Let your post pass through these gates, right? Like, is this true? Yeah. Is it busted, or is it plausible? Let's design some tests for it. Let's put this through our methodology. But I want that to happen every time. So if you guys, maybe you could make an app or a filter that we can just apply.
I want to sing the praises of YouTube right now, specifically because 4 or 5 years ago, a YouTuber reached out because they were replicating one of our stories and they wanted some advice. And in the past 5 years, I've appeared on at least 3 other YouTube channels doing stories that we had done on MythBusters. And it's been building. The periodicity is getting closer and closer. And I realized in my head, oh, wow, eventually YouTube creators will replicate MythBusters' entire canon and also carry it forward.
Oh, yeah. That would be great.
Yeah.
I want to make the crossbow. This man made a crossbow out of newspaper that was not only a functional crossbow, it was frightening and legitimately lethal. And I think you made it out of a little bit of elastic and newspaper, and that was it. Oh my God, there it is. Look at that thing. Oh, it's scary.
It's still one of my favorite objects I ever made on the show.
It's scary to this day.
It's 100% made out of newspaper and gelatin as its binding glue. Okay. And my crew called it, you'll love this, they called it the dream catcher.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
Right? And you'll appreciate this. the question was asked, how are we going to make something out of newspaper when we can't show any ads for anything else on television? And my solution was a Chinese newspaper.
Hey, perfect. That thing is beautiful, dude.
Yeah,
Look
dude.
at that. You've made some really beautiful objects, you know, like, I don't know that was ever part of what you were trying to do, but like sometimes it's like, damn, that is so cool.
More to share.
Oh my God, this is a dream come true. I'm literally living a dream right now. This is awesome.
So not only did I get to make some surpassingly gorgeous objects, I was quoting some of my favorite artists. So I love Jasper Johns, mid-century abstract expressionist, big flags, big targets. And Jamie and I were doing a story about can you shoot a gun out of someone's hand?
Oh, yeah.
And we did the math and we figured out that I could build an aluminum gun with a target and it would be about the same mass transfer as a bullet hitting a handgun. And so I made this.
Oh, that is very Jasper Johns. Look at that thing. That is gorgeous. Yeah.
It's a single piece of aluminum with a gun butt screwed to it. That's it.
Yeah.
But like this might be maybe my favorite object out of all 14 years of making the show. It's just so absurd and delightful.
Oh my God. Can I tell you, like, and then I'll let you go, but a dear friend of mine, Jeremy, who you met, my producer, I think it was for my 40th birthday or something. I had a huge party and he showed up in a white Tyvek suit with goggles, 4 banana cream pies, and a catapult that he had made. And this thing was beautiful. It was fantastic. And I had 4 chances to hit him in the face with this catapult. And the first one went over his head. The second one landed like right at his feet. Third one went over his shoulder. And the fourth one hit him square in the face and slid down. And it was one of the most perfect events that ever occurred in my life. And the object itself was so beautiful that I kept it. You know, even though we broke it the next day trying to shoot everything in the world off of it. But
of course.
Adam Savage, this was a fantastic experience for me. I really, really enjoyed talking to you. I've always wanted to do it. You're just as wicked and badass and brilliant as I hoped you would be. And I really appreciate your perspective on all of this. And I really think you're doing something great out there in the world by making deductive reasoning and the scientific method so full of play and so full of joy and rigor at the same time. I think you're an excellent boat with an excellent sail and rudder. And thank you so much for talking to us, man.
I want to say one thing about working scientists, which was, as an artist in many different mediums, I am constantly bombarded with people who think that the one medium they know is without a doubt the best medium there is to work in. I always find that hilarious when somebody thinks that that's their jam. But in the whole course of MythBusters, we worked with so many working scientists. And to the last, every single one of them loved what they did and was involved in their work and having a real life satisfaction from doing that work. That's the thing I love passing on to young people, is that like science isn't an avocation. It's not like, bang, I'm struck by lightning and I've got the mark and that'll make me a great scientist. It's a vocation, and it's just a vocation for the mildly curious up to the intensely and incredibly crazy curious. But, you know, over any other kind of employment, working scientists were among the happiest people that I got to spend time with.
Oh, that makes me happy, actually. That makes me happy. See, the scientific process and testing your hypothesis before asserting your belief makes you happy.
And I say that understanding that the whole edifice is under attack right now. I get it. Yes, I'm aware of what's happening in the world.
Oh, Adam, I wish I could keep you all day.
It has been such a pleasure to talk to you too. I have been looking forward to this since you pinged me from my friend Max Kaiserman's phone.
Yep.
And I really hope that you can get here to San Francisco and come visit the cave so we can continue this conversation.
You say that, and now it's going to happen. Now I'm going
Okay, good. Let's do it. Let's
going to
make it work.
leave this interview and head to San Francisco. Adam, thank you so much. We'll talk to you soon. All right, bye.
All right.
Well, that was very exciting for me. Literally my favorite show. That was so cool. We got to see the crossbow. I mean, all right, okay. Anyway, I wrote a bunch of stuff down. That was fascinating. The first thing I wrote down is that our brains prefer story over facts, like innately. And that's both good and bad. We definitely benefit from the stories that we tell, but they can also leave us very vulnerable to misinformation. Plausibility is living in both knowing and not knowing at the same time. And that's an uncomfortable place to be. That made sense to me. And I think because it's so uncomfortable to be there, it's very tempting to rush toward something being totally busted or totally confirmed, even though you might not have sufficient evidence to make either claim. Does that make sense? And the last thing I wrote down is we can't bust every myth. There's simply too many, and they come at us too fast. Yeah. Well, let's go outside. So we know that our brains innately prefer stories over bare facts, especially when those stories reassure us or confirm our biases or provide us with a sense of certainty, because the state of not knowing is very uncomfortable and certainty feels great. So that makes a form of sense to me. I can see why people would prefer not to have their myth busted in some cases, because they'd rather live inside of it, right? But that seems fraught to me, risky even. What do you think? What are the risks of asserting a belief before testing it against reality? Yeah. Well, thanks for coming by. Thanks for listening. Thanks for hanging out. This really does mean a lot to me. And you look good. You do. It's pretty out here. Alive with Steve Burns is a Lemonada Media original. If you haven't subscribed to Lemonada Premium yet, now's the perfect time. You can listen to the show completely ad-free, plus you'll unlock exclusive bonus content from me as I reflect on this episode. Just press subscribe on Apple Podcasts, head to lemonadapremium.com to subscribe on any other app, or listen ad-free on Amazon Music with your Prime membership. That's lemonadapremium.com. Alive is hosted by me, Steve Burns, and produced by Jeremy Slutskin. Our editor is Christopher Champion Morgan. Our associate producer is Akshaz Tharabailu. Audio engineering by James Sparber. Lemonada's SVP of weekly programming is Steve Nelson. Executive producers are Jessica Cordova-Kramer, Stephanie Whittles-Wax, and me. We'll see you next week. And you look great, by the way.